Good morning. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining the Environmental Justice Workshop this morning. We're going to provide Spanish-speaking instructions how to join a Spanish-speaking channel, and then we're going to proceed with our workshop. On the screen for our Spanish-speaking participants, you see the instructions how to join the Spanish channel. Just follow the instructions. I'm going to give you a moment to follow the instructions and to get into the Spanish channel. All right. Abraham, would you like to kick us off?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Once again, thank you for joining us this morning, taking some time out of your wonderful weekend. And so this, I'm just going to go ahead and introduce ourselves. Me first, obviously. My name is Abraham Tellez. I'm the planning manager here at the city of La Puente. I'm a city employee. I have been with the city for 4 years now. And so I know the ins and outs. I'm actually also a resident, so I'm here with you, and we are very thankful that you're here with us. Go ahead, Hannah, introduce yourself if you would.
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. My name is Hannah Stelmakovich. I work for the statewide nonprofit called Institute for Local Government, or ILG, and I am happy to join this workshop to moderate and facilitate and hear from all of you today.
Roberto, yeah.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Roberto Carlos Torres, pronouns are he, him, él, and I'll be kind of doing most of the tech support today, but supporting the team, and I'm happy to be with you all this morning. Thank you.
Thank you all. So what are we doing today? How are we going to spend our hour and a half together? We're going to start with learning about environmental justice element and the draft environmental justice element that the city of La Puente is developing, and we're helping them. We're going to learn about goals and policies that are in the environmental justice element. We're going to have questions and answers throughout this session. We are encouraging you to use the chat box for any questions as we go, and we'll try to answer them as much as possible. We're going to have some group activities today. The goal of this workshop is to hear from you, to review those goals and policies of the environmental justice element together, and to hear from your thoughts and reactions and suggestions to the draft element and the list. And then we're going to wrap up on time at 12:30, so you can continue with your day. Okay, so how are you participating in this workshop? We would love for you to participate. There's a little bit of information that we would like to share with you first. And as we do that, please use the chat box, drop your questions, drop your comments, drop your thoughts on the bottom of your screen. You can see the chat, just click on that. Also, if you have a question, when we go into the group discussions, we're gonna ask you to raise your hand, and to find a hand, how to raise your hand, you're also gonna look at the bottom of your screen at various icons. You're gonna find the button reactions. And then once you click on the button reactions, the raise hand button is gonna pop up. So that's how you're gonna raise the hand. Again, reactions, raise hands. This workshop is being recorded. We're gonna post the recordings. This workshop is being translated with a simultaneous translation into Spanish. So we're gonna try to speak a little slower so our wonderful interpreter, Lindsay, can keep up with that. And for the Spanish-speaking participants who are joining us, there's interpretation globe on the bottom of your screen as well, where you can select the language. If you are joining from your cell phone, some of you are joining from their computer desktop, some of you are joining from the cell phone. To find those chat reactions, raise your hand option, you might probably have to swipe through different screens. If you don't see it, just swipe through your screen to the left or to your right. Cell phones are a little bit different with those navigations. All right, with that, we would love to hear a little bit about from you, who is in the room, how long you lived in La Puente, have you heard, do you know anything about the draft environmental justice element? So with that, we're gonna launch our Zoom poll. And Roberta, help me to navigate that because I do not see it on that screen.
The poll is live and folks are voting.
Perfect. Do we need a few more minutes, a few more moments, Roberta?
Yeah, we have about 9 folks who have participated so far. And if you are not seeing the poll, please let us know in the chat. There should be 3 questions on your screen. Cool. Should be good, Hannah.
Okay, we're displaying the results because I did not see them.
The results are displaying now.
All right, well, take a look at the results. And Roberta, could you please walk us through the results? Because they're not. Thank you.
So we're seeing a few folks that say they live in La Puente, about 27% of you. And 33% say they work in La Puente. 7% say they both work and live in La Puente. And another 33% say no, but they love La Puente. And thank you all for joining. For the second question of how familiar you are with the draft EJ element, we have 8% who said they've heard about it but don't know much. 15% said they have reviewed it. And 77% say they don't know much, but they're here to learn. So thank you very much for that. And then the short answer question, I don't know that we can see the results on that one. It just tells me how many people answered.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you all for participating. I appreciate it. It's good to know who's in the room and welcome everyone. Yes. All right. So what we're doing next, let's learn a little bit about what environmental justice element is. We're going to hear from Abraham, who's going to share with us about that. I do want to acknowledge Adriana's question in the chat about in-person workshop. We had one in-person workshop last week on Tuesday, last Tuesday, I believe, and we're very happy to offer additional opportunity on the weekend for you all to join for the virtual workshop. All right, Abraham, tell us a little bit about what environmental justice is and about the draft environmental justice element.
Yes, thank you, Hannah. So on the screen, we've posted what the US EPA defines as environmental justice. I mean, it's essentially the fair treatment, meaningful involvement of all people, regardless of race, color, national origin, or income, with respect to the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. And so that last word, policies, is what really is for our element in a sense. But it's really about the fair treatment of all when it comes to anything that is an environmental issue, and the regulations that and policies that we adopt to address those issues. And then, so what is the element, the environmental justice element? So I want to back up just a little bit here. An element is a component of what a city has, is a general plan. The general plan of the city has several elements in it. For example, land use. It essentially designates what certain areas are going to be used for, zoning, things like that. But in terms of the EJ element, it's going to become a part of that document. So a general plan is alive for 20 years. So what we have here, this environmental justice element, could be a document that lasts 20 or more years, depending on what the city decides to do in the future. So it's essentially a plan that sets clear goals and policies to reduce health risks from environmental pollution. And so to look at that, if you have had a chance, I saw that some had a chance to review the element, you'll find those goals and policies really at the end, summarized at the end almost of the document. And that's where we're essentially going to focus our workshop here this morning. So the EJ element seeks to address the following: reduce pollution exposure and improve air quality, promote public facilities, and that could be, parks, it could be community centers, and their use of them, adequate use of them. And then promote food access. And we're talking about healthy food here. We know that there are grocery stores around, but sometimes even I go to the grocery store and I don't see what I want, more vegetable options, more fruits, healthier foods. But it also means education, because our community might be making the wrong choices in terms of what food to consume and what to purchase. And so it could also mean education. And then promote safe and sanitary homes. So the city of La Puente has a residential rehab program that focuses on helping residents, income qualified residents, to be able to fix up their home. So, but we want to know, if there's more that needs to be done in terms of making safe and sanitary homes. Promote physical activity, exercise, reduce any additional unique or compounded health risks. And again, this might be something unique to our community. Promote civic engagement in the public decision-making process. And that essentially is what we're doing here right now. We're engaging with the citizens, the residents, and anybody that's interested to be able to chime in and tell us opinions. And we want to hear your opinions and your comments so that we can go ahead and create this new environmental justice element. And then ultimately prioritize improvements and programs that address the needs of disadvantaged communities. And really the point of that one is it's really about meaningful actions, right? So we can have all these plans, but we need to be able to also have the actions that would get us to those goals and policies. So it has to be a meaningful action. And then, so where have we been and where are we going? So this whole effort started in February through June 2023 with stakeholder interviews, community survey. So we were in the community trying to get information. Eventually, by last month, we posted our first draft environmental justice element. It's released. It's available on our city's website on the planning page. And it's there for you all to look at. Then we started with, on February 29th, our first community workshop. That was actually 2 Thursdays ago. So it was on a Thursday, and it was a couple weeks ago. And now we have our March 9th today, our virtual, which is great to see a lot more participation today. Where we're going next is Planning Commission and City Council. This will go before our decision makers. And we have on the screen here spring 2024, but really I think we're pushing this out to the early summer to be able to take it to the Planning Commission and City Council. And then let's see here. So to recap what we've done in terms of hearing from the community, you know, the goal of outreach is to not only to hear, but also to educate, because there are some individuals here that might not know or might have not been aware what EJ means or stands for, what it is or what an element is. So we had to, you know, provide that information to the public, but also hear and try to engage and get the feedback from the folks out in the community to be able to draft up and develop our EJ element. So the first round of engagement, as we stated, was in spring 2023. We were in the community. We launched a survey online, and we performed stakeholder interviews. We identified some stakeholder groups, and so that went really well. And then we also moved on to the second round of engagement, where we are today for the 2 community workshops, the flyers at the community center and City Hall, public comment. But the other thing too we did was, you know, we took advantage of social media. We had developed a email list from prior efforts, you know, the housing element that, you know, we did, that's also part of the general plan. We had, you know, developed a good list of individuals that were participating in that effort, and we included them on this list. So maybe some of you were involved in that. But so we did email blasts, and we're going to continue to use those, and you'll find out why. But to continue on, what we heard and how it's included, and this is going back to that document, the actual EJ document. So what we heard in regards to access to healthy food, you'll be able to find in goal 3, beautification and green spaces. You'll find in goal 1 and 5. Cleanliness and safety of public places, you'll see in goal or addressed in goals 1 through 4. And then the infrastructure and amenities, you'll see in goal 1 and 5. And then moving on to education and health programs, you'll see in goals 2 and 7. Communication and accessibility in goal 6, language access in goal 6, and then of course collaboration, community involvement also in goal 6. Now, so the point of this, as we stated, is that we want to make sure that what we heard in all of the past efforts and engagement is correct, right? We want to make sure that we hit the mark. And not only that, but also that it's complete. So if anything is missing in our review or our understanding of the community's concerns or input, you know, we want to give this opportunity once more to be able to take that in and fix up our EJ element. So pay attention to what one out of these, what might have been more resonant to you, what stands out, so that we can move on to the next steps of our workshop. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Abraham, for that presentation. Just to the recap, the City of La Puente is still doing public engagement. This workshop is that public engagement process. But what the city has done engagement last year, we've talked to the community, we've heard some of the community concerns, some of the community priorities, and we went through all that, and the city really wanted to make sure a lot of things that they've heard, it's included in the goals and policies that we'll dive into the moment. Again, and the purpose of this workshop, the environmental justice elements, for those of you who haven't looked at it, and we're gonna drop the link in the chat, it's a big document, it's the draft. We're not gonna go over the entire document today. The purpose of today is really dive into those goals and policies and ask this group, did we hear that right? Does that resonate, the goals and policies that the city is proposing? Does that resonate what you're seeing in the community, what you're hearing, what you're experiencing? Again, just wanted to kind of maybe clarify that we're not going to go over the entire environmental justice element, but really focusing on goals and policies and continue that engagement so we can continue to refine those goals and policies and the document itself before it goes for the public hearings with the Planning Commission or the City Council. Any initial questions about anything that we've covered up to the point? And again, we're going to go into the group discussions and we'll talk about the goals and policies, but any initial questions for the city? And go ahead and raise your hand on the bottom of your screen. For those of you who joined us late, you have to click first on the reactions on the bottom of your screen and then click on raise hand.
Hannah, maybe as folks are looking for that to raise their hand to ask a question verbally, there is a question from Anita Morales. Is there a deadline for community input?
Yes, that's a really good question. And Abraham, I'm gonna turn it to you.
Yeah. Yeah, so like we stated, our timeline and what we want to do is take this to the Planning Commission and City Council in early summer. We need some time to take take a look at all the comments that we've received in both workshops, to incorporate them and make sure that we catch everything. So there's going to be some time between that final preparation, that final document, and the Planning Commission. So I would say I'm just going to do a shot in the dark here. Maybe by next month, April, maybe we'll leave. I think that's a good amount of time. It's about a month of leaving the document, the draft document, open on the city's webpage. But while that's there, my information will be made available. It's available. You can email me directly once you take a look at that, or if you have any questions, yeah, please reach out to me.
Any other questions? Please go ahead and raise your hand or drop them in the chat. Maria.
Hi, so just wondering about the process. So I had a chance to read through the document, and it sounds like the next step after outreach is going to the Planning Committee and the City Council. There are a number of I don't know the words, but parts in here that it would seem like that the city would be partnering with local community agencies, state perhaps, and perhaps even the school district. How will that process work?
Yes, that's a really good question. Thank you for bringing this up. Abraham, I don't know if you're ready to answer that about the specifics. Maybe some previews, and definitely, Maria, this is the work in progress. So there's definitely going to be just figuring out how to implement that plan and how those partnerships will look like.
Yeah, thank you, Maria, for that question. So the city, when it gets involved with other agencies, there's a number of ways to do that. And for the other agencies, like for example, like the county, we do have contacts with them to work with them. But in terms of decision-making bodies, it could be up to the city council of our city to reach out to other city council members from neighboring cities, or board members of the school districts. It's really up to those. There's also ad hoc committee meetings that would occur. So this document really is getting to tell our council that our community members want them to be involved with those other agencies. So if you make that a priority, and if that is your primary concern, that there should be that communication, that that's something that you should comment on that. Yeah.
Thank you, Anita. And Maria, and this is the purpose of the workshop, to hear that and to hear those suggestions.
Sure, but then ultimately we're responsible as citizens to enforce it. Is that correct?
Yes, in terms of reaching out to your local legislative your mayor and your council member, yes, we we can hold that on them and say, hey, we have this document, we have, this is a goal and a policy, we want to see this. So, this is something, again, that the city council will have to see and adopt.
Thank
Sam? Oh, Sam and then Stephanie. Maria, did you have a follow-up questions? I mean,
I just said thank you.
thank you. Thank you. Sam and then Stephanie.
Yes, I just want to thank you guys for accommodating us with this virtual meeting. I did have a chance to review the document. I want to, appreciate all the time that the staff has contributed to producing this document. So I just wanted to clarify, as a stakeholder, as a constituent that has been organizing around these issues of environmental justice, that the issues are very complicated and they're multifaceted, and they often intersect with with issues of equity and class, and really go to the heart of why environmental justice is a framework that our government mandates that we produce this element. So I just wanted to reiterate that this process of producing the environmental justice element is really it's a mandate for disadvantaged communities, right? So SB 535. But there's also government code that requires that if you are a disadvantaged community, you are required to produce an environmental justice element, either as a separate, element within the general plan or integrated into the general plan to address environmental justice issues that are present within the community, right? So the goal, I think, it's really important. The goal is for us to create policy to mitigate and to address outstanding environmental justice concerns that we have, right? So this workshop is really an effort to collect from us feedback into framing the policy, right? And so thank you guys for doing that and, opening the space. I think some of the comments I've seen are, maybe sort of suggesting that maybe another in-person meeting will be helpful. But one of the things that I wanted to just clarify, if the environmental justice document that you guys prepared, if it's been translated into Spanish, so that we're really being inclusive and really making an effort to include our non-English speaking residents as part of this process.
Yes, thank you, Sam. And I love how you're anticipating what I'm going to say next in terms of what are we doing next. We're still in the process. The goal is to start kind of looking at those policies and goals to see if we're addressing the heart of what disadvantaged communities need. On the translation, I'm going to pass it to Abraham.
In terms of translating the document, we do not translate these documents for multiple reasons, but it's one of, like I said, it's one of several documents that the city has in terms of its general plan. So it's a living document. It's available for public, even after adoption, it's available for the public to look at. And if there are any questions by a resident that needs it to be translated on a specific item or a specific issue, they can definitely come to City Hall, talk to me, and I will go over that with them as closely as possible. But yeah, but it's not something that we plan on translating into Spanish or any other language in this instance. Thank you.
And some of the policies and goals are translated. The handout that we've included for this workshop, the goals and policies are translated. So Abraham, I don't know if there's opportunity to post goals and policies. And this is one of the most important parts of the documents for Spanish folks to look at. Stephanie. Stephanie, you're still on mute if you're trying to talk. Stephanie, I see your hand raised. You're still on mute. All right. Well, Stephanie, maybe we'll get back to you a little later. And if drop your question in the chat. Okay, so all good initial questions. Thank you for bringing everything up. Thank you for sharing. This is the purpose of this workshop. We are still continuing our public engagement. The city would like to hear from the community, all the suggestions, all the questions, all the concerns. So thank you for that. So what we're gonna do next, some of you mentioned that you
Hello?
have... Oh, yes, Stephanie, yes.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I was having tech issues, I guess.
It's okay.
Yes, thank you so much for hosting this. My name is Stephanie Serrano, and I'm on the Board of Education for Hacienda La Puente Unified School District. And I'm looking in the attendance, and I just want to say, give a big shout out to everybody that's in attendance, because a lot of these folks have been really advocating and fighting for environmental justice in our community for a really long time. And so it's nice to see them here. It's sad that I don't see any other board members here. It's sad I don't see any other city council here, but I'm here because our community has been disproportionately impacted by environmental justice issues. And so a fact is that La Puente children are more likely than 90 to 98% of other children statewide to be exposed to lead within their homes. They're more than 90 to 98% exposed to lead in their homes. So not only is this an environmental issue, this is environmental catastrophe. This is a crisis. And so I'm so glad that we're having this meeting. And I don't think it's right to leave it up to the city to reach out to local stakeholders. That should be a requirement. They should be reaching out to our Board of Education, should be disseminating this information into our 15,000 students in the community that are directly impacted. And so if that could be documented, that we cannot leave it up to city councils to engage local stakeholders, because certain city council members have a direct partnership with environmental polluters like Quemetco. So they're not going to go out of their way to protect the community. They're going to go out of their way to protect those polluters. And so I don't think it's legally sound to rely on them when they have conflict of interest to do the community engagement or to engage other stakeholders. And so this is a major issue in our community, and I just want that documented for the record. In our school district, myself, I've taken a lead on ensuring that we're also fighting for our students' environmental justice. And so we are deeply invested in this conversation, and I would like to be included, the Board of Education, on these conversations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. In our survey, we used the school district listservs to send to all the parents their first survey. So when we talked about what we've heard and what included in the goals and policies, some of those participants were from the schools, but really good suggestion on the stakeholders and who we should be talking to. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for being here. All right, so in the interest of time, we're going to have opportunity to discuss and talk more, but let me keep us moving. What we're going to do next, before we have these discussions about goals and policies, let's spend a little bit of time reviewing the document individually, not the entire environmental justice elements, but the goals and policies. So we're going to do some individual reading, individual review of goals and policies. We're going to go over them one more time, and then we're going to go into the breakout groups where we would love to hear from you. What resonates with you? What do you like? Is anything missing? Do these goals and policies in the draft element make sense to your community? So those are our next steps. Roberta is dropping the link to the document. The document itself, the goals and policies in the chat. Please feel free just to download it on your device, or I'm gonna get you the link to the online version, so you can just look at the hyperlink. And let's spend another 5 or 7 minutes reviewing this document before we go into the large group breakout group discussion. All right, let's take maybe another moment to read and then to review the goals and policies, and then we'll regroup. All right, well, let's go back as a group. I hope you had a chance to review the goals and policies and start thinking about what resonates, what policies you like, is there's anything missing. Before we go into our breakout room discussions, Abraham, can you walk us through the kind of like a high level of those goals and policies that is in the handout?
Yes, of course, Anna. So as you've had a chance to review, you've noticed that you have the goals and then you have the policies below them. So those policies are obviously they're intended to address the overall or overarching goal. So to briefly go through them, goal 1 is promote efforts to improve the quality of the built and natural environments to reduce disparate health and environmental impacts. Goal 2 is ensure that public facilities and services are located and distributed throughout the city that to allow for easy access for and enjoyment by the residents. Ensure access to healthy food is goal 3. Goal 4 is ensure safe and sanitary housing. And then goal 5 would be provide and improve parks and recreation centers that serve all ages and abilities. Goal 6, promote and ensure meaningful and effective participation and community capacity building, especially when developing, adopting, implementing, and enforcing plans and policies related to public health, environmental issues, or any plans or programs that affect residents. And then finally, goal 7 is our last goal. It's prioritize improvements and programs that address the needs of the residents.
Thank you. Thank you for that recap, Abraham. All right, let's go into our breakout room discussions where we're going to do a deeper dive on these goals and policies, and we would love to hear more from you. Roberta, could you please activate the breakout rooms?
Yes, and then just a quick note for those who need Spanish interpretation, you should stay in the main room. If you get taken into a breakout room, please leave that room so that you can access interpretation in the main room. It shouldn't happen, but it might, and if so, just click leave room, not leave meeting, leave room, and you'll be able to get back to the Spanish interpretation. All right, and the rooms should be open, and you'll be asked to join the room or stay in the main room.
Hello,
So,
anybody there? I didn't go to the break room, or I could stay in Spanish too, either way.
I haven't been asked either.
yeah, if you haven't been asked, you're gonna be in the main room with us. And Abraham, you're good to start.
Can I? Okay.
Go ahead, Maria.
Um, my Spanish is a little limited around environmental justice, so I can try, but I will respond in English.
So this will be in English. Roberto, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this will be in English, but the option for interpretation stays in this room. Roberto, can you confirm that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, everything is still spoken in English. There is interpretation being provided for those that need it in Spanish.
Okay, so just so that we can get started on here, goals and policies, group discussion. So we wanted to give you a chance to let us know, and well, by answering these 3 questions, which goals and policies do you like? Is there anything missing? And are there goals and policies that don't make sense for your community? So let's start with the first one. If we could, you know, allow anybody to speak. I mean, we can unmute unless we want to have this directed, Roberto. But which goals and policies do you like? Yes, go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, thank you so much. For me, I think that first off, I want to once again give special thanks to the staff for all the work that you put into this. I think there can always be more work, but that's part of the reason we do community engagement. For myself personally, I think a goal that really needs to be strengthened is access to parks. I saw in the report that there are 2 census districts where 10% of residents within that census tract have access to a park. There's 1 census tract that 0% of residents have 0 access to parks. And I think that that's really concerning. The city of La Puente, for 42,000 residents, only has really 1 major park, 23 acres total. And so I think that the goal or the policy should be creating the policy should be no census tract. There should be no place within the city of La Puente where 55% of residents don't have access, or more don't have access to parks, right? There should be a minimum of 55% of all the residents in all the census tracts have access to a park. And I think the city should make that an official policy and mandate that they are committed to making sure that the residents have access to parks. And the reason I think that's important is because this is a disadvantaged community. This is a working class community. This is an immigrant community that has traditionally suffered from higher exposure to hazardous waste, to contaminated groundwater, and poor air quality. The minimum that the city of La Puente can do to mitigate against that is to really provide the green space that's intrinsic to our public health.
Thank you, Sam. We have Ricardo Martinez.
Hey, Abraham, this is Ricardo. Can you hear me by any chance?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just want to echo what Sam mentioned, and also thank you all for putting all of this together. My number one concern when I read the proposal, I just read it last night, and there was a issue that I raised in the comment section with regards to lead or children's risks to lead specifically. And as board member Stephanie Serrano mentioned, if you go to page 10 of the document where you all lay out the facts about, some environmental concerns. It says, and I quote, the La Puente children are more than likely than 90 to 98% of other children statewide to be exposed to lead within their homes. End of quote. And it's just something that I think is just horrendous. And, lead impacts the brain, impacts child development. I have a lot of friends who have ADD in La Puente. I personally suffer from ADD myself. And obviously you can make those correlations, but you can only question whether, lead has had an impact in the development of children here in the city of La Puente. And I read the goals and policy section again, and I don't see any section that directly addresses how the city will tackle children's risk to lead in the general plan through this environmental proposal. So I want to see, Abraham, what you think and what the staff thinks, and whether this could be updated before it reaches the planning commission and obviously the city council. So that's one thing I wanted to raise. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricardo. I think we have Adriana Quinones next.
Good morning. My name is Adriana Quinones, community advocate. What I'm concerned with is that we are not talking about working in partnership with the Hacienda La Puente school district regarding the closed schools and possibly converting them to parks, to much needed parks in La Puente. I'm also concerned with no discussion of partnerships with Los Angeles County, DTSC, Southern California AQMD, and other governmental agencies to make sure that La Puente advocates for its residents. As you may be aware, there's a lot of contamination in our communities, and it needs to be addressed urgently. Not later, but now. And I think that needs to be documented to the point where all elected officials in our areas take notice and participate, because at the end of the day, our kids' lives are being endangered, and also the residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. And then we have still Natalie.
Hi, thank you. So I kind of wanted to, I guess, piggyback a little bit off of what Adriana was saying right now. I noticed the mention of the contaminants, but I think that it's also important to bring in and just talk about the fact that we're also being affected by a lot of the neighboring cities that are releasing a lot of these contaminants. Like, for example, the city of West Covina that has that old landfill of volatile organic compounds. So that has a big effect on local students or local people in La Puente. So I'm wondering if there's any partnership that might come from that and partnering with local cities. And also just another thought is the transparency that could be provided to not only adults like us who are in this conversation right now, but also to the younger populations and students who can probably be more involved in these conversations.
Thank you. And then Sandra Martinez.
Hola.
Hola.
Ahora puedo hablar en español, ¿verdad?
Sí, está bien.
Ok. Bueno, a mí me preocupa mucho el ambiente, pues mis hijos tienen asma y es un asma muy severo donde yo me he tenido que ir con luces rojas. He tenido que hacer tantas infracciones de que yo ya siento que mi hijo se muere porque su garganta y sus pulmones están cerrados. So, a mí el aire, la contaminación me preocupa mucho. So, yo pienso que la ciudad tiene que tomar acción y más aparte acción en las escuelas, porque las escuelas no están haciendo nada. So, yo pienso que la ciudad tiene que tomar acción sobre el plomo, sobre el agua, sobre la comida, porque dan mucha comida con plástico, que la calientan con plástico. Y también eso, pues el plástico lleva al cáncer, ¿verdad? Entonces, yo pienso que la ciudad tiene que tomar acción en si el distrito no está haciendo nada, ellos a ir a ver qué tan alto está la contaminación y hacer algo, porque estos niños es el futuro y si no cuidamos su salud, no vamos a tener un futuro, ¿me entiendes? O sea, y también de los parques. Ahorita yo los llevo al Puente Park.
Sí.
Y veo cómo tienen privilegios nomás los que están como ahí registrados. O sea, no es un niño libre de ir a practicar, de ir a jugar, porque no los dejan. Entonces, este parque a mí me encanta porque es el primer parque que veo que lo limpian súper bien. Este sí le doy mucho crédito y los felicito porque en la mañana me ha tocado ver, he ido bien temprano a correr y lo sanitizan, que pienso que en todos los parques se debería de hacer eso, ¿verdad? Pero están poniendo una cafetería, le están metiendo tanto dinero, pero no dejan ser libres, no dejan practicar, no dejan estar en bicicleta. Entonces me gustaría que también la ciudad tomar en cuenta que los parques son libres para los niños, ¿verdad? Y por favor, que tomen esto mucho en cuenta sobre la salud y también me gustaría que plantaran más árboles, porque los árboles son los que limpian la ciudad y como aquí está contaminado, me gustaría que invirtieran un poco más en invertir árboles por toda la ciudad. Gracias.
Gracias, Sandra. Does anybody need me to try to translate all of this, or can we move on to the next? Or was the interpreter translating back? Roberto?
The interpreter was not translating back into English, but
Okay.
I took notes.
Okay. Should we move on to the next person?
I
then,
think we're good.
Okay, perfect. Anita?
Yeah, thank you again for hosting this space for us to go ahead and voice our opinions and our input on this draft of the plan that you all worked hard on. I'm really glad that everyone has been talking about certain points that I too also have an opinion about. So I think it was Sandra right now who just spoke, having access to parks. So Sam mentioned earlier, having, more parks within the city of La Puente, since we only really have one major one, and then this very small dog park. And what I do notice as well is although, these two parks exist in the city, there's no access to it. My little brother who plays soccer likes to, he used to like to go to the park, La Puente Park, before the whole renovations were done and so forth. And most of the time he tries to go with his friends, he can't even go because it's closed. So having access to those green spaces, as well as expanding those green spaces, improving, the future parks that do go in, into place, having even community gardens, which would play a role into, I think, the access of quality food, which was addressed, I think, in one of the goals here. Goal number 3.
Yes.
And I think it was Natalie too, who mentioned, partnering with or discussing with other cities and so forth of things or even companies that increase contaminations that will impact the city of La Puente. That one, of course, being Quemeco, which is now called Ecobat. So they've been found that they have contaminated a lot of our water and our soil with lead, which does address what Ricardo was talking about. A lot of us You know, we don't know that there's these little things, well, they're major things that live in our, you know, our soil, which then impacts our food if we have fruit trees, and, you know, our water, which then impacts our health. A major thing too is looking into, you know, I'm all for like having more trees and so forth, but I'm also someone, you know, living in La Puente, I have major allergies and sinus problems because of the pollution and the allergens that exist. So, you know, having more green spaces will definitely help, you know, with that carbon dioxide and so forth. And yeah, thank you for hearing me out. And yeah.
Thank you. Maria?
Hi, thank you again for holding this and just giving us the opportunity to voice some of our concerns and issues. I'd like to echo some of what has already been said. Food and food insecurity is really important, I think, in addressing. There is no real farmers market in La Puente. I mean, there's a farmers market. It seems like it has a lot of prepared food, not a lot of things that I would think of as a farmer's market where it's like fresh fruits and vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
I saw, you know, I saw that HLP USD was mentioned in the report in regards to food, and my kids can't eat the food from the school district because there's cheese and everything, even when it says there's not. The food is all prepared, like Sandra was saying, in plastic and everything else. We really need to put pressure on the district to have fresh fruits and vegetables and to help not just educate kids and their parents, but also our teachers, right? Also the employees that work here. So just wanted to broaden that out. The air quality, again, I don't live in La Puente, but I'm really involved in our kids' school, and I'm surprised at how many kids have health issues. It's hard to run when you have asthma, right? It's hard to do different things and to fully participate. So we need to be identifying natural ways of dealing with the pollution. And I think that in addition to, like, whether it's tree cover or green spaces, influencing our city neighbors, our other municipalities, to address their environmental issues, whether that's West Covina or City of Industry. But La Puente suffers because of that a lot. I think the last thing I'll just say is affordable housing. Many folks know that they're going to be closing schools, and they say it's because of low enrollment. And I'm not going to get into truth or not truth, but ultimately that was connected to housing. La Puente is affected the most by this. And when I look at the documents, you know, these are old documents they're basing it on. And it's like La Puente isn't affordable. It doesn't take into consideration a lot of other things. But I think regardless of what the district is doing, having affordable housing is really important. There's been more and more homeless encampments. And people need a place to live and to be able to live with dignity. Thank you.
Thank you. Luz Sandoval? If you are listening, you're on mute. Luz Sandoval.
Okay. Yes,
thank
thank you very much.
thank you.
Gracias. Yes, my concern is more ADA compliance and accessibility. For example, on the parks, and that's why probably all our parents who have kids with disability, we don't come out much out because we don't have the accurate restroom to use to change our kids. They do have a changing for diapers for babies only, but those who are older and have a cerebral palsy or that needs a more longer bed to change, there's nothing
Okay.
to change. And also playgrounds are not, and that's my big concern with the school closure that's going on right now, because they don't even have the adequate playground for the kids to play at the school playground. And that's a major law, not want to say lawsuit, but major non-compliance fee, because I'm thinking, okay, they're gonna go to a class, but then they don't have nowhere to play, and their kids are just gonna look other students playing except them on the playground. And that's, to me, that's the main not complying with ADA and ADA, and again with FAPE. And that's my major concern with, again, closing schools, because they're closing schools, 7 schools, without even thinking about all the students that they're going to go into one room. How many students are going to go into one classroom? Imagine now the teachers. I just recently, one parent told me, she asked help from the teacher that her student is behind, her child is behind, and the teacher responded to her, "Oh, I can't help everybody. I have a lot of kids right now. I cannot help individually, just to concentrate on your child." And that's not right to the teacher to respond. But I see her frustration already. We're not even yet going through, the transition of all this moving around, and the teacher's already stressed. So we already have a packed class of students that aren't even getting the adequate attention of having their own proper, for them to be successful in class and school. And those kids start getting behind, and those kids starts like having no knowledge of moving forward, because that even will hurt the self-esteem to move forward, to go to college, and so on. That's one thing. And then on school, they try to make it look with Sparks. The Sparks at school, they try to make it beautiful at the grass area. Instead of having real grass, they have a turf. Now, turf produces cancer. If you look at the research, that looks cancerous. So are we not protecting our kids when we make these construction decisions? We're just making it okay how to save money. They rather save money instead of the kids' health. And that's what I'm looking at right now with all the school stuff. They're not looking at it. And I wish also with, parks too, if they're trying to make shortcuts, you need to make good health decisions. Don't be putting turf on the park either to make it look pretty. But again, it's a health issue. Also, my daughter just went to, another thing that the school's not ready, that my school just went to visit Sparks. My daughter, thank you, babe. My husband's overhearing us. My daughter is also went to Sparks, and she went to visit, and she goes, "Mom, that school is not ADA." Now she's a little advocate for herself, which is really good. And she said, "Mom, Spark the class are big, but the doorway when I go in are very, very small." She has a power wheelchair, but she also sometimes goes with the med stroller. But the med stroller is a little smaller, but still, she said, it's too small. It doesn't fit that much. I have to a little bit maneuver to go in. So yeah, it's not. My husband says it's not adequate space to travel, and to travel through the door. So that's like another ADA. So schools are not prepared, but again, they're closing all these schools at the same time. If someone could also help us and slow down the process on that, because It's not only my child, but there's other childs with disability that they're going through the same situation.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if you cut out, it seemed kind of abrupt there. But thank you, Luz, for sharing that, all that information. We're gonna move on to one more person, Diana de la Torre.
Yes. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And like everyone has repeated, I appreciate you guys having this platform for us to be able to really discuss our concerns. Yes, to all the green spaces, I really agree with that because that just helps the air quality where we live. One of the concerns that I do have, so I live, you guys all know where the train is on Valley. So we live on the other side of that big, huge wall that was built a really long time ago. But some of the things that we've noticed is, obviously we know living next to like a train track or railroad, air pollution already, and also the noise pollution. We moved in about 4 or 5 years ago. So we did notice that our son was getting a lot like sick very often, not being able to breathe when he's outside. So some of the things that the doctor did recommend is like, don't go outside as often, close your windows, get an air purifier for your house when it's difficult because it's pretty outside. Like we want to be outside in the sun and enjoy just outdoor spaces. So what we ended up also doing for our home is we ended up planting a lot more trees and like privacy stuff where we have a lot more green space within our home, but also hoping to have more green space kind of where the train tracks are to really help with a lot of that noise pollution and also the air pollution. I do notice that when we do drive down Valley closer to when you get to Walnut, it's a very different setup. Like you can't even see the train passing. Like they have so many bushes and trees. It's just more aesthetically pleasing and healthier for that environment. So maybe having some sort of request or acknowledging like how we're gonna fix the situation there, because I know the dog part is also gonna go there. So how is that gonna help the kennels or the dogs that are there with the noise pollution from the train? Just a little bit of related to the train. I guess those are my concerns.
Thank you. Luz, you're returned. Did you have anything more to add?
Yes, one more thing. Let's not use a lot of chemicals to kill mosquitoes. I have an idea, an alternative. Because if you kill mosquitoes, that's another air pollution for all of us to smell the, have a health hazard too. With my daughter, she has asthma as well, and I have to have a humidifier every day, especially for air. But I see that there's also sometimes, if there's this time of year, like when it gets really hot, I see La Puente Nacional is having trouble with mosquitoes.
Okay.
So instead of having how you call it, putting pesticides, maybe we could plant. There's a plant called. Let me double check. I think I was just looking at it. Plant some natural plants in order for the mosquitoes. It's called Citronella plant. That can help out with the mosquitoes in the park too. And I also gave this idea to Los Altos high school, to the principal. But I have noticed to my experience that doesn't go beyond. It just stays with him. So I think we need to connect somehow with the Hacienda La Puente to start listening to parents, starting from the staff, from the bottom and up. But that's a good idea for the park, not to use pesticides a lot. Thank you
Okay.
very much. Okay.
Thank you. We have like 2 or 3 minutes left. Natalie, do you want to chime in?
Yes, I do. I'll try and keep it short and sweet. But essentially, I just wanted to talk about educational programs for here. I know one of the goals, Goal 7, talks about engaging in educational efforts to eliminate groundwater and urban runoff pollution. I think that educational portion could be super important and help with the buy-in from the rest of the community to be able to support this element as well. This can go into schools, community events. I know we have La Puente Park that's very popular now, so maybe even hosting like some guest speakers that can come in and talk about these events and talk about how air pollution and groundwater pollution is affecting us in our community. So that way there's just more support and conversation about it. But also for the water pollution, I think another way that this can be addressed is through promoting more trees, like how a lot of people have mentioned already, as well as maybe more native plants. I know we want to utilize some to get rid of like mosquitoes and everything, and that is an amazing point. But also we can use native plants to be able to support our ecosystems in a healthier way. And they wouldn't need that much attention since they're supposed to grow in these spaces. And yeah, it would also help with just infiltration from when we have a lot of storms or rain. The soil would soak up the water rather than it going into our and whatnot.
Yeah, those are all great points. Thank you. I think we are ready to receive back because we're in the main room. We've made good notes of everything that we have here. And so we're gonna, if there's anything else to add, I don't mind taking more comment. But I think we need to regroup soon. Roberto, can you
We have about like 1 minute,
okay,
so we can take like Sandra's
Sandra,
comment on
go
that.
ahead. Yeah, thank you, Roberto.
Hola, sí, quería que la ciudad sí tome en cuenta todo lo que hemos dicho, porque es muy triste escuchar que por la ciudad que vives es cuántos años vas a vivir, como he escuchado, como por donde está MacArthur Park, que ellos la probabilidad es que ellos lleguen como 60, 70 porque no hay muchos árboles y la contaminación está muy mala. So, quería abogar para que por favor a nosotros hagamos la diferencia en que nuestros hijos, porque que nuestros hijos lleguen como nuestros antepasados, o sea, que lleguen hasta los 100 por un aire que tengamos súper limpio, pero para eso la ciudad tiene que hacer mucho, porque nosotros podemos levantar la voz, pero las ciudades son las que pueden pasar las leyes, o por favor les pedimos que siempre piensen en esos chiquititos que es el futuro. Gracias.
Gracias. And I think
the large group is about to join in, but
thank you.
just wanting to say thank you very much to everyone who made a comment and who participated. I took notes. I think I saw Abraham was taking notes as well. We're taking all these notes and we'll explain kind of what the next steps are once the whole group is together, but know that all comments, both in the chat, what you've said verbally, all is being taken into consideration here.
Thank you very much for your time. Will there be another meeting soon?
So we have, I know I saw that comment in the chat about another meeting option. So we are in the tail end here and I'm, trying to wrap up this document. But, we're going to go ahead and jump into like the next steps, if we may. I think we've been joined in by the rest of the group and we'll go ahead and talk about what's going to happen. And any additional opportunities to provide comment. We do not plan on having any more community workshops such as this. At this time, we want to, take in everything that we've received and continue to take that information in. And as I stated earlier, and if anybody joined in late, I'm targeting April. If it's possible to keep it open and receive comment, but you're welcome to send me emails and any ideas that come up. You're welcome to encourage anybody else that wasn't able to participate this morning to go ahead and also take a look at the document. If you guys are educated, you guys know what this is all about. You are sort of like my representatives for my community. So go out there, share the news, share the information, go over it with them, and please have them submit comments to me again by April, preferably, so that we can sift through everything and hopefully incorporate what we can. So again, Planning Commission and City Council hearings, we're hopefully targeting early summer, and there will be notifications, the same ways that we blasted the emails out to the stakeholders. As soon as you all signed in and registered, we got more emails. So, anything new that's been added, we're going to go ahead and add to our email list. Social media, the same way that we've been advertising this on social media, and our website, the flyers, all of that is going to continue to announce when this goes to the Planning Commission. Then the Planning Commission will make a recommendation to the City Council for adoption of a resolution, hopefully to adopt our final draft of this environmental justice element. Now, like I said, if there's any comments or questions that come up after we end today, please go ahead and take note of my email. Here at City Hall too, we're technically a small town. We have a small town feeling in an urbanized area, but walk in anytime, come talk to me. Again, my name is Abraham Tellez. I'm the planning manager. I'm here to hear you guys. I'm here, and I think that's all I have to say.
There's
Hannah,
one more poll in Abraham.
yeah, go ahead, Hannah. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you, Abraham, of giving preview about the next steps. Before we let you go, I see a few hands from David and Sandra. Could you please drop your questions in the back in the chat? I would love to do another polling for this group, and there's seven goals, proposed 7 goals. I would love to know from this group, how should we prioritize the goals? Which goals are very important? Which goals are perhaps moderately important? Which goals are maybe not important at all? So we wanted to do kind of that reality check. And for the interest of time, David and Sandra, I see your comments, but let's go with the polling. And as people are taking the poll, could you please drop your questions in the chat? Roberto, keep me honest here about the polling because I don't see anything on my screen.
Can you check to see if you can launch the poll now? Because it says I can't, and that I'm logged in elsewhere.
Let me see polls.
And then while you do that, I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll when you have that. But I want to give David Argudo a time to speak. He is our city council, one of our city council members. So I want to go ahead and give him some time to speak. But go ahead. There's the poll. Let's go ahead and vote on that, if you will.
Hello, Abraham.
Yes.
Hi, David.
Hi, I just want to make sure everybody can hear me. First, I want to thank everybody, staff and the consultants for putting this together, and everybody that participated today. I had an opportunity to listen to everybody. I interacted on the first workshop and put my comments in, but the overall surmise of what I'm hearing is we want mobility, we want green space, we want to protect our air pollution, we want to combat air pollution in the city. And this is a forum to create that policy in order to pass it on so we could have it on the books. Some of the other stuff that we need to address and collaborate with other agencies is something that goes beyond this general plan. So I really, really appreciate everybody's input today. And I did have one concern, Abraham. I wanted to ask, I know that we're talking about not having another workshop. I know that in the previous workshop, we only had like a small turnout of people. In the Zoom, we had a great turnout. I think the outreach was bigger. But Abraham, did we only announce that at first workshop 2 days before? I saw a comment on the in the chat room with respect to that. And if that's the case, I believe that that's not adequate time for having community participation. Can you elaborate on that?
I don't recall the timing, to be honest with you, Mr. Argudo, but we did provide what I thought it was several weeks of announcing and emailing and putting it on social media, every which way that we could do it, the fastest that we could do it, and reach out to those stakeholder groups, by email. And I know that my team, my consultants are, on a contract for a certain number of meetings, but if I can talk to, my higher ups, Mr. Argudo. We can see about the possibility where I host an additional to take more comment, but I have to be cognizant of my contract and, but I do want to facilitate more if that's what you want to do, Mr. Argudo.
Well, and what I would like to propose today is everybody that's participating today, if there would be an interest to spread the word and to have a second opportunity in-person workshop to be able to collaborate and come up with more defined policies, because I think that for the first time we're having this dialogue. People are coming with different ideas, and now we need to hone them down. I know as staff is taking the notes and putting them into the priorities, but I think this will take us to another level. So who would be, and in the Zoom meeting, I know I'm gonna need help here, but either by raising your thumb or something on the reactions, who would want to see this in a in-person workshop?
I think we've seen plenty in the chat. You already been so vocal, all the participants. Thank you, asking the city to do another workshop. We've seen it throughout the chat. I've heard it in my breakout groups. And I wanted just to jump in on the promotional timeline. This workshop has been promoted in conjunction with the in-person workshop that happened last week. And for those of you who said we've seen this workshop 2 days ago, we've done really good push this week to make sure people can sign in, because we did not get a lot of numbers in the first week of promotion. So that's why you've seen more of that.
So what really quick, I'll tell you that some of the groups that some of the individuals that participated went and tapped into their groups. And this is, I think, why we have more participation. But the question was not answered. The first workshop, when did it start getting promoted? The first workshop was announced 2, 3 to 4 days before, or was it announced 2 weeks before?
It's like 2 weeks before, if I recall.
On social media, it was first posted February 12th, and prior to that on the city's website.
Thank you. Well, okay, so I think we have a consensus that a lot of people would like an additional in-person workshop, and I hope that Abraham, you work towards that, and we could have some offline conversations with the city manager.
Of course, sir. Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody. Really appreciate you guys' time.
If I may say just a few words.
We are right at time, Liz. If you can be very, very brief.
Yes, I just really quick. I just heard about yesterday, the meeting, and that's through a parent. So if we get another workshop, please, can we advocate? I could, help you out, pass on flyers too, or somehow I could do, if you do another workshop. Thank you.
It's very kind of you to offer. Folks, we are right on time. Thank you so much for participating. Again, the draft element is still in development. The point of this conversation is to hear from you what else the city needs to consider before it finalizes the draft element. We hear loud and clear from you that additional workshop would be great. We hear loud and clear from you that the promotion, let's do better the promotion. We did do like a big push in the last 3 days just to get our registration numbers in, but looks like this big push is actually the promotional effort that we need to do. That's when you see it. And thank you for offering your help to pass out the flyers and suggestions where to post information so people know. Again, everything that we've heard today, we're going to take in, the city is going to take in and see if there's opportunity to do tweaks and revise the goals. Abraham will follow up with more information, how we have incorporated that feedback. So please stay tuned. Thank you so much for participating, and have the great rest of your Saturday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.